everybody, and welcome to The Movement. I'm your host, Lorianne, the creator of The Movement, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. Today is a topic that we haven't addressed yet on The Movement, despite how many of you have written in and communicated to us about how involved you are in your lives with sports. Because usually, not always, but usually, when there are boys and multiple boys in a lot of cases, there's usually one, two, three, or several sports going on. So today we have a special guest. Her name is Mandy Holmes, and Mandy has created a space and a platform for helping families navigate through the costs and expenses that would be associated with youth sports. So I would like to welcome Mandy to the movement today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I am so glad you're here, as many of our moms will be who are listening, because you're about to fill us in on great information that I know will be so valuable to so many. But before we get started, let's tell everybody out there that you in fact are a moob, a mother of only boys. Tell us first of all about your family on a personal level.
Yes, I am a moob, and I have one boy. He's 11 years old. He plays 3 different sports, and we live in Arizona.
That sounds great. And pickleball? Is that his favorite sport?
Pickleball is what he's all in on right now. He also plays flag football and basketball, but right now we are super focused on pickleball, and it's taking us on a wild adventure.
That sounds amazing. And I have to say, I'm a little surprised and thrilled to hear it because I am a moob myself with 3 grown sons. And I have proudly said that I am a 64-year-old nana, a grandma as well. And you can imagine in my world, there is a lot of pickleball going on, although it may not be as competitive, although sometimes I guess maybe it is. So it's really exciting and great to hear that young athletes, young boys and girls, are participating in pickleball. It's a really fun sport. Do you play as well?
I play because my son plays, but yeah, he has a lot of friends in their 70s and 80s now. It's very cool to see a sport that can be played really any ability, any age, and it's a really inclusive sports community.
That's great. I play a little golf myself, and I know that feeling. I play with younger people. I play with people even much older than I am. And it's a nice thing to bridge the generation gap that way. So
It really
terrific.
is.
That's great.
Yep.
So before we move on to exactly what you're doing, let's open the show to have everybody get to know you a little bit more. I'm going to fire off some just quick questions just so that we get to know the inner workings of Mandy Holmes, and you can just reply on the fly. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, Mandy, what would that food be?
Spaghetti. Spaghetti and meatballs. Yep.
Ooh,
Very
sounds good.
comforting.
I
Yeah.
think I'd be right along with you with the pasta. A song that puts you in a good mood every time you hear it.
Oh gosh, I think I'd go with Eminem, Lose Yourself. That's
Ooh,
like so nostalgic. Just pump it up when I'm driving or need some motivation. That's a good one.
I love that. We actually just aired a show last week about working out and having to get healthy and motivate yourself to do exercise. And that's definitely a good song to put on for something like that. That's
Yep.
terrific. Okay, 1 or 2 more. Coffee, tea, or neither?
Green tea, green iced tea. You know, I'm in Arizona, so it has to be iced. Too hot
Okay.
here for anything but iced.
Okay, so you're a healthy girl too, because I hear there are lots of benefits of green tea.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's about my healthiest thing I do.
That's okay. You got
Yeah.
something. Planner versus fly by the seat of your pants kind of girl.
Oh my gosh, naturally a planner, but you know, with an 11-year-old, oftentimes I find myself having to be a little more fly by the seat of my pants. So I'm learning to accept that, but in my heart, I am a planner.
Okay. Well, actually, both are good skills to have. So it's good that you're a little of each. That's great. Okay. So let's move on here and just talk a little bit about your journey and tell everybody how it started. Your son is 11. What did you do beforehand and how did you pivot into what you're doing? And tell us about what you're doing.
Sure. So my background was in marketing, in advertising, and PR. So I
Hmm.
spent my days talking to local small businesses mainly and bringing them exposure to their brand. So when my son really took an interest into pickleball, the costs were getting upwards of $10,000 a month. And we were kind of like,
Wow.
how is this sustainable? He wants to travel every weekend. And it just wasn't going to be realistic without sponsorships. And so I just shifted my knowledge of talking with small businesses to give them exposure and position my son as a marketing asset in the local community for small businesses. And I really fine tuned the conversation, the ask, the meetings that I needed to have with the right people. And now he has over $5,000 a month in
Wow.
sponsorships that come in. And so almost his entire sports are offset with sponsorships. And so when I learned how to do this, I taught it locally in person in Arizona to many sports teams and families and within all the pickleball mom community. When we were at tournaments, I would teach them in the hotel lobby. And so I recently recorded the course into a 60-minute course, and now I can share it with parents worldwide because it applies to any sport, any age, 8 to 18, and any skill level. So it's very exciting.
That's amazing. You are my kind of woman because you actually saw an opportunity, but you were also solving a problem and you didn't stop at just doing that for yourself. You actually went out and went to help other people, which is really amazing. And I'm sure you have helped so many people. But I have so many questions, as I'm sure everybody does for you. The first one is, how do you decide who to approach as far as sponsors? Are you going after the Adidas, Nike, whatever, and or the smaller mom and pops? How do you decide who to approach and how much to ask for?
Yeah, we are not going for Gatorade right out the gate. That's for sure. We are sticking to a local level. Once you're playing a sport and you've been doing it for a couple years and maybe you find equipment that you're really loving, then you can go for those big national brands. But to start, it's all about local and positioning yourself, your family, your kid as a community partnership. So I always tell people your first sponsor is probably closer than you think. Think about people like the realtor that sold your house, who you have your insurance through, your kid's dentist, your hairstylist, your personal trainer, the people that you're interacting with and spending money with on a regular basis. Those are going to be the best first asks, and always start with a couple $100s. I teach in the course how to have a sponsorship ladder. So there's different options. If somebody's looking to sponsor $100 or 500, there's something for every budget and marketing budget for businesses.
So explain to me. I'm going to ask you on both sides of the coin here, but let's start out with the business or the sponsor. What are they getting out of this deal when you approach them? Tell us from their side why they should cough up whatever it is, $100, $200, whatever it is.
Yeah, it really depends on the business. We partner with home service businesses all the time. So AC companies, plumbers, electricians, landscapers, and those are people you may not think would be a good sponsor, but those people value a shout out within community Facebook groups. That is like gold to them. And so if it's somebody that you genuinely love and have used their service, I make a deal with them. Hey, we're going to post 10 different community Facebook groups within our area and shout out how great you are at AC tune-ups, or how our experience was working with your electrician to install dimmers around our house, or whatever my organic experience is with the business. They find tremendous value in that. We'll also slap their logo on a t-shirt, and my little guy will wear that t-shirt to practices, to tournaments, to the airport, anywhere that a lot of people are going to see it. You can order a logo on Etsy for $5. So that's a really easy way to get their brand out in the community. We do stuff on social media. One of the most fun things my son enjoys is when we partner with a company and go tape content for their social media. So for that, like,
Mhm.
air conditioning company, he's going to tape content with them and talk all about how it's so nice to come home to a nice, cool house after playing sports. And the house is so cool thanks to them. So they get to repost that. They get tons of new followers. He gets new followers. It's getting their brand out there. It's really a win-win-win. So to answer your question, there's so many ways you can benefit the business.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. I think those authentic, community kind of posts are what really resonate with a lot of people. I mean, when you're looking for a referral for somebody local. And I guess the other thing is all those $100 add up. Is there a limit as to how many sponsors would you take on, or is the sky the limit? And do those contracts last, if there is like a formal contract or whatever it is, does it last a certain amount of time?
Yeah, well, first of all, sky's the limit on what you want to ask for. I always say start with $100. That's the easiest ask. Everything starts with an email. I have it down to a formula where you send an email, then you do a follow-up phone call, and the idea is to get a conversation with that business owner or that decision maker. You're not asking for $10,000 right out the gate. You want that relationship with that business. So number one, you want to get the meeting or the Zoom call. And so sky's the limit. Once you have the relationship, sky is the limit. But as far as a contract, yep, I teach this in the course. You have to have everything in writing because you want to make sure
Mhm.
they're holding up their end of the bargain and it's teaching your kid accountability. I always use the example we partnered with a smoothie shop and my son didn't want a smoothie and he had an agreement that he would go to the opening for the smoothie shop and he wanted to go on a play date instead. And so we had to have that conversation of you signed a contract. This is accountability. We're in this together. And so it was a really good life teaching lesson to do with your kids as we go through this whole process. We frame it as this is his first job because he's getting paid to do certain things. And so it's a very good learning opportunity for the whole family.
Right. So that brings me to the other side of the coin, and which is what is in it for the athlete, the young child, and for the family. Clearly, it's a learning experience. It's a real life learning experience. I mean, how often can we give that to our children? And it's like priceless, right? But what else
Yeah.
do the kids get out of this and the families that make it worth the effort to do this? I mean, aside from the fact that I mean, that number was mind-boggling to me that sports can cost that much. So obviously you have the monetary benefit. Are there other benefits as well?
Yeah, he's gotten to do a lot of cool experiences. He gets interviewed for magazines, like local magazines or local TV
Wow.
stations all the time. And that's something that is really fun to pitch your child for different stories and get them some local exposure. He's gotten to play pickleball with celebrities because they have found him on Instagram that I run. I run his Instagram and have invited him to play with them. He's gone over to celebrities' houses that have pickleball courts because they've needed a fourth
Wow.
player. Like, it's very cool the experiences that have opened up. He recently got a partnership with Toys R Us. So he's doing some social media content with them. So it's very cool, but I do run everything by him and we make the decisions together. I'm not in control of it and he's not in control of it. It's definitely a family decision of does this brand align with us? Is this something you would use or play with? Or do you like this food? Or, it's very much a conversation that we're always having together because we want to make sure he's benefiting from it. Is this clothing that you like? No, I don't like the material. It's scratchy. Okay, we're not going to do that one. So
Right.
he has a lot of benefits, but he's very involved with the process.
Right. And actually that's great too, because when you do decide to represent something, you know that it's something that if he likes it, chances are other people will like it. And if you represent something that's scratchy or that you don't really believe in, it's really going to ruin your own reputation going forward as well. So that's a really good life lesson. Also, be authentic to what you agree to.
Yeah.
Um, my mind is wheeling here because I'm many more than a few steps ahead of you in the raising boys process. And I remember, although I am now even long past that, the challenges of college and college admissions and college essays and what distinguishes and differentiates one child versus another, one student versus another. And boy, knocking it out of the park on the entrepreneurial side, on the life learning side. I'm writing the essays in my head about what he can actually say about this experience. And I can't imagine the number of doors that that will open up for him when it comes to college.
Yeah, and even just the branding side of it. If he wants to play any of those sports in college and beyond, now they have all this NIL, partnerships, and college students are making millions of dollars. That's not what I teach.
Why don't you
We are
explain
not doing the
explain to people what that means? Because I think many people won't know what that means.
Yeah, so NIL stands for name, image, likeness. And that's very much at the college level most of the time. And that's when you're talking about getting paid for how you perform at your sport. And that is a totally different conversation. That's where the big bucks are. That's not as relationship based, it's more brand awareness. Whereas what I teach is more relationship based, where brands are and local brands are looking for just good humans in their community. They don't need the best player on the team. They don't need the kid with a million followers. They want somebody who's just a positive image, a supportive family. They don't want the kid yelling at their parents or cursing out their teammates or throwing their ball in the parking lot after a loss. They want just positive athletes that are doing good things in the community that are a good representation of their brand. And that's the big difference between NIL and sponsorships.
Right. But it is a good learning experience if they are going in that direction. They go in with a leg up just having a sense of what it's all about, the big picture, which is great. And
Yep.
it as you're speaking, I'm thinking this really works both ways too, because what you are actually doing, you really are supporting the community in which you live. Because when those businesses prosper, everybody prospers. I mean, there are more jobs. The businesses stay in business, and especially those small businesses that are being bought out by so many of the giant conglomerates right now. So I think you're doing a great service to the business beyond, I guess, the obvious. And it certainly seems like a win-win. How much time does it take on behalf of you and your son in order to, if you're doing $5,000 a month or covering most of your expenses, how much time and when do you find the time to do that?
Yeah, I dedicate an hour a day. So sometimes I sit down at my computer and I dedicate 60 minutes and I just grind it out. But most days it's 20 minutes here and there. It's when I'm sitting in the school pickup line. It's when I'm sitting at practice with other moms and we're all sending the emails and the DMs and all the things that I've taught them how to do. Sometimes it's, when I'm just waiting for a doctor's appointment. I find 20-minute intervals throughout the day, and then it doesn't feel overwhelming. I'm able to maintain what we've built. When I first started out, I really went in hard and I committed to 30 days, and I had a goal of $2,000 that first month. And I exceeded it because I really poured everything into that first month. And now it's just kind of building on that. We have reoccurring sponsorships that come in each month. So if you want to hit the ground running, I would say dedicate 2 to 3 hours a day if you can. I know it's hard with summer break, especially, but once you are in a good point, an hour a day here and there, you should easily be able to get 1,000 minimum a month because that's only five $200 sponsorships. That's so easy to get right away. And I did want to tell you that
Yeah.
I've had people with girls in beauty pageants take the course. And that's,
Really?
something I know nothing about being a mom of a boy, but it is the same concept. It's the same ask. If you're doing a charity fundraiser, it's similar to that. It's very plug and play email templates and conversations that you're having. I've had equestrian families. I've had skateboarding families, all these different activities that I didn't even think of when I was really teaching the course just to sports parents. But it's very cool. Yeah, it applies to anyone looking to get things sponsored.
Yeah, really, it's a great skill to have to be able to go after what you need. And again, look at it from both sides and say, well, this is a win-win situation. Present it that way. You'll get this out of it and we'll help you do that. And then, it's almost like, how could anybody turn that down? And especially when you're talking about a couple of $100s. It sounds like really a no-brainer if it's presented correctly. And I'm sure your course is going to help everybody do that. You mentioned the other moms taking the course. Is there a competition among moms for, the businesses in the area, or how do you navigate that when, you're one team? Do you do things on behalf of a team sometimes, or are you always individually? How do you handle that?
It can be both. It was funny because I had a group of moms get the course together and then they made a girls' night of it and they all watched it together. So they had charcuterie and wine and they watched the course and then they took that information home and then they applied it to their own kids. I haven't run into any competition because people are going after their own, you know, businesses that they are associated with. So everyone has a different hairstylist. Everyone has a different um, pediatrician. Some of those industries I mentioned. So I haven't seen it be a problem as far as competitive. A lot of businesses don't see this ask coming. And when you present it with a media kit of your kid with their photo and information about them, businesses are just blown away. They're like, I never thought of this as a marketing avenue. And for 300 or 400 bucks, let's try it out and see how it goes. So it's a very unique way of marketing that's why most businesses say yes, because they've never heard of this before. And a lot of parents didn't know this is possible. A lot of people are like, what do you mean I can just ask a business for money? Like, yeah, you can. You just have to ask in the right way and make sure it's a partnership. It's not a donation. It's not a fundraiser. It's not a get rich quick. It's truly a
Right.
partnership. And once people understand that, the asks become so easy.
And are they mostly recurring? Are you asking for recurring, or you're asking for a one shot and then we'll see how it goes?
I usually do a one shot, and then when they see success, then I ask for let's do a 6-month reoccurring.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense to me. It's funny because the first thing people say to me, besides, how do you start a podcast? People say, how do you get your guests? Like, how do you do that? And, I learned very quickly, you just ask. I would say of all of the people who I ask, probably 90% of them say, I would love to. And some of them I was surprised that when you just ask and you ask nicely and you do it with a open heart, I think more people say yes than you would ever expect.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if they say no, that's okay too, because you're going to hear no a lot in life. And I think that's good to show our kids, all right, this person said no. So that means they weren't a good fit for what we're trying to do. So now we're going to move on to the next person, and so
Right. And they
it's okay
and
to
they
hear
learn
no. It's
yeah, and
okay.
they learn don't take it personally. Everybody gets rejection sometimes, and you're right. What a great life lesson, because you're not going to get yes all the time, whatever it is in life.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
What about the
Yep.
coaches, the school staff? Do they respond positively to this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've only had positive feedback so far, so that's good. I
Okay.
did a test group of families before I launched the course, and it was all kinds of people, coaches, club sport owners, just sports parents, people I didn't know. I really wanted a wide variety focus group. And it was really interesting to hear all the feedback because as different as everybody's worlds were within youth sports, they all had very similar feedback. And it was always, I didn't know this was possible. I wish I had started sooner. And it's
Hmm.
amazing how your kid doesn't have to have crazy stats to get sponsored. Everyone thought that they had to be the best on the team or they weren't good enough yet. And they were waiting until they were. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, should have started way earlier. So yeah, it's been a
I can
positive experience
imagine.
across the board.
Yeah, I can imagine also you had said air conditioning, things like that. Restaurants, you're eating out all the time. I'm eating out all the time. What a wonderful thing for restaurants, especially when teams are coming in.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
restaurants are one of the best and easiest asks because if you're a team, you can position your team as, hey, do you want to host our season kickoff or our end of year celebration? Host the kids, pay you as the restaurant, host all the athletes, give them free food, drinks, and then we'll bring the paying families, the siblings, the parents. We'll all take pictures. We'll all share it. We'll tag the restaurant. You'll have a full restaurant of a lively crew. You can take content while we're there. We'll give you a shout out in our team email. There's so many ways to bring that restaurant business that most of the time when we do this, the restaurant is like, when can your team come back? We'll do this as often as you want. So
That's
getting
awesome.
team meals is like one of the easiest asks that's really beneficial for the restaurants.
Amazing. Do you feel like other people are out there doing this, or is it something really unique?
I mean, I don't know anybody else that is teaching people. I do think sometimes when people figure it out, they don't want to share it with other people. And I'm the opposite. I want to share it with everyone because there's plenty of sponsorship to go around. So I think as people are learning it, they might just not be as open about it. But it is a really new concept, and people are so used to fundraisers. And I really rarely use that word. I don't like it because you're just asking, give me, give me, take. And you're not giving anything back to that business. And I've always, my background is in supporting small businesses and bringing them exposure and visibility. So I don't like the fundraiser side of things. And that's what most teams think they have to do. They just, a lot of people don't realize that there's other options. They're so used to having to sell the popcorn and sell the cookie dough and, stuff like that. And there's other ways to get things funded and a lot more money out there if you do it this way.
Yeah, sounds great. I think a lot of people want to know, how can I get started and how can I do this? So tell me about the course.
Yeah, so it's a 60-minute online course. I break it down into 5 or 6 minute modules. So you can sit down and watch the whole thing, or you can watch a module a day and start to apply it that way. But it's really intended to watch it quick and get started, hit the ground running after you learn what to do. It's called Sponsor My Athlete. So it's sponsormyathlete.com. And I give you all the templates. I think there's like 22 templates in there. So you'll get every email you need to send, every phone script, every DM, a list of businesses to start with, a sponsorship ladder, a media kit. That's such a valuable asset. You can just plug and play your athlete into that. So you have something physical to drop off at businesses when you're out and about. I give you everything you need plus a 20-day kind of plan. So I give you one little task every day to get your first $1,000 right out the gate. So it's a very fun class to take for the kids and the parents. You can go back and rewatch it as many times as you want. Watch it with a friend. But yeah, it's available worldwide now, which is so exciting because I can't wait to see people take this in their own communities beyond Arizona. And I've
That
already
sounds
heard so many amazing stories of what people are getting.
That sounds amazing. And again, I think it's such a wonderful thing that you took it to that level and you didn't keep this all for yourself, but you are helping other people do the same. And I think that's so admirable. So I think you're doing a great service and a great job. So we all appreciate it. And
Thank
tell
you.
everybody how, and we'll put it on our social media and our website as well, but how would they get in touch with you and how would they sign up for the course?
So you can follow me on Instagram at carpool2contracts because that's what we're doing. We're driving the carpool to sign the contracts. And
Okay.
you can buy the course on sponsormyathlete.com.
So thank you so much, Mandy. I think that everybody appreciates it and wants to hear more about it. So I'm sure they will tune in and reach out to you. So that will be great. As most of our listeners know we have a segment on every podcast called Moob Mail. And so Mandy has gratefully agreed to stick around and help us with that. So here comes our Moob Mail for the day.
Oh boy, it's that time. Woo, mail's here. Your voice meets mine. From your heart straight to our trail. Let's open up that mail.
Okay, I had actually put out a couple of prompts to some listeners and received a couple of interesting questions. These Moob mails, actually, some of them are simply, "Hi, Lorianne, we really love the podcast," and don't ask me much of anything. And I love those just as much because when I wake up in the mornings and I check this Moob mail, I never know what I'm going to find. And so keep them coming, everybody. They kind of make my day. Some of them are really funny. But here we go. These are a couple that I thought would work really well with Mandy. Dear Lori Ann and Moobs, my son is 13 and absolutely loves baseball. We spend so much time driving to practices, games, and tournaments that sometimes I feel like our whole family's schedule revolves around sports. My husband and I want to support him, but we're also trying to make sure his younger brother doesn't feel like he's always coming in second. How do you know when you find the right balance between encouraging your child's passion and keeping your family life balanced? And this is from a young woman named Fran. So I think having 3 sons, that's always been a difficult question for me, whether it revolves around sports or anything else. All of my boys really did like sports, but they also had other interests. And sometimes we had to drag one along to the other's activity, and it's not always easy if one's into performing arts and theater and the other one really dreads doing that. You're going to get a lot of pushback. But in the end, I think what I can say to Fran here is they learn tolerance and they learn to support each other, and it's about that brotherhood. And I think that you're teaching a good life lesson when you're teaching them to respect the other siblings' passions and desires. So you have to find a balance, clearly. What do you think, Mandy? How would you answer Fran?
Yeah, so I see at our, I have an only child, so I don't have to deal with this. But what I see at flag football and basketball practice is oftentimes the little siblings are assigned roles, whether they're the team managers or the cheer squad. And I saw one parent brought poster board and markers one time, and all the siblings made signs to hold up during the game. And it kept them totally entertained. They were thrilled. They had a little job. I've seen kids selling candy bars, working the snack bar, all kinds of little tasks. So maybe getting those siblings involved when they reach an age that they could have a little role for the other siblings' team. That might be something fun.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You're one family and you have to support each other, and it's a good lesson to do that. But, one of those situations again where being the mom, you just have to put on the creative thinking and come up with something and try to keep everybody happy. So, yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to actually read one more. We got so many responses to these, so I'm going to read one more that I'm hoping Mandy can weigh in on. My son takes sports very seriously, but I think I may be taking them more seriously than he is. How do parents know when we're helping our boys and when we're putting too much pressure on our kids? And this one is from Sammy. Sammy from California, she wrote. So what do you think, Mandy?
After every practice or game or tournament, we do something on the ride home called Peek and Pit. And it really starts such a good conversation for me to gauge how he's feeling about sports. We talk about the peak, the highest point, his favorite part of that game or practice. And then we talk about the lowest part. What part was the most challenging? What part did you not like? So if I'm starting to hear the same thing over and over, I don't like this coach. This coach is mean. This coach, this, that kind of is a red flag to me. Oh, maybe we should be thinking about switching teams or finding a different coach. But I think that peak and pit conversation is probably one of the best things we do on the drive home.
That sounds great. And I think you said the key word there, conversation. Because on this podcast, we have had numerous authors, childcare specialists. We had the authors of a book called Talk to Your Boys, who really have spoken to so many young boys and gotten their feedback and taught us that from an early age, we need to learn how to communicate with our boys because not all boys are programmed to communicate and express their emotions. So what you're doing and helping him communicate and talk with you, I think is so very, very important. Mandy, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I think there are so many moms out there, moves out there who are just in the sports arena constantly, many of whom are trying to figure out how do we support these sports, maybe numerous sports, numerous sons that they have and pay for all of this and keep up with everybody. And still manage to do everything else they want to do between food and vacations and everything. Because a lot of these sports involve travel, which is quite expensive. So thank you for helping them, for helping all of us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Us boy moms have to stick together for sure.
You got it. You got it. We've got Moob Power here and Moob supporting Moob. So that's fantastic. And this Moob who is right now in New York sends thanks to the Moob out in Arizona. And we are going to end the podcast the way we always do, which is to remind our listeners to hug your boys, to trust your instincts, and remember that we're all boy moms and those who love us belong is right here.
Hey, hey!